Hi, everyone. Ashley Mailloux, David Aragona, taking a look at the Sunday DRF race of the day. We'll go to Louisville, Churchill Downs. They have a 9-race program, and we'll focus in here on the start of the late double. Race number 8, it's a 6-furlong sprint on the main track. For the fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upward, optional claiming price here of $80,000. And just a field of 7, but there are horses that last time out, I think, in terms of their efforts, we could see them maybe down the road doing some, I guess, bigger and better things.
Yeah, some horses in here that have shown potential, looking to clear this second level allowance condition. And David Jacobson comes in with a pretty strong hand in this race, a trainer that's been pretty successful since starting out running horses in Kentucky a few seasons ago. And he's got the number 4, Marmalade Sky, and the number 5, Hilarito, who are listed as the top 2 players on the morning line. And they've attracted some of the best jockeys competing on the Kentucky circuit as well.
We'll take a look at the time form U.S. pace projection here. And you mentioned the 2 names here, the David Jacobson runners. It looks like Hilarito might make the lead and Marmalade Sky might be chasing, but be very curious to see some of the tactics here with a horse like Into Champagne drawing more towards the inside. When you look at her races earlier in her career, she was a bit more forward than maybe the last out.
Yeah, Hilarito seems like a horse that's definitely fast enough to make the lead if they want it. I mean, she's one going as short as 4.5 furlongs, so she's got some strong quarter-mile speed to get to the lead in here. I imagine if both of these Jacobson runners do participate in this race, the other one will probably let her go to get an easy lead, and we'll see how much pressure we get from one of the horses you mentioned, Into Champagne, who's putting blinkers on. I think the number 2, High Fashion Kate, is a horse who's shown a little more tactical speed on occasion, so we'll see if anybody goes after this front runner.
We'll kick it off with the number 1, Into Champagne, who gets some class relief in terms of her last out effort, where she didn't fire a good effort by any means. And last time she faced this level was at Keeneland back in April. So we really haven't seen her much so far in the last couple of months, David. And I just don't know what to do. I think when you look at her earlier races in 2024, you can see the talent. And she left something to be desired in those most recent.
Yeah, as you noted, she was a horse that really had some things going for her early in that 3-year-old season, even competed in the Kentucky Oaks, was a big price in that race and didn't do a whole lot of running, but just has not been able to get back to form or build on that 3-year-old form since returning as a 4-year-old. Her return was actually okay, but she's gone backwards since then, and I don't like the way that she's sort of visually shut down in the late stages of her last couple of races, and now they're putting blinkers on, which always feels like as a move connections make to just try to find something that's not been working and change it, and we'll see if it has an impact on her, but she really needs to turn around her trajectory.
The 2, High Fashion Kate, she comes in here off a really good effort where she just missed, but it was a 5.5 furlong turf sprint. And it's very interesting to see her 21 starts, 7 on each surface, dirt, turf, synthetic. She's been able to handle them all fairly well, just no turf wins under her belt. And I do think her last out effort probably sets her up well for here, but how do you kind of look at her against this group now returning to the main track?
Yeah, I really appreciate the versatility that you noted. I mean, you might look at her recent form and say, oh, she's a turf specialist switching over to the dirt. But as you said, I mean, she's never won on the turf. So when you go back to her form prior to that string of 75 plus buyers that she's earned recently, she actually showed a little bit of preference for dirt last year. She earned a 76 buyer winning at Churchill Downs, going the 6 furlong distance, albeit against weaker company. But I just feel like the recent string of good turf efforts signals that she's in the best form of her career right now. And I don't mind her switching back to the dirt in this race, and she's been competitive at this level. She's got good tactical speed, and for the connections that she's going out for, I feel like she's going to be a fair price in this race.
The number 3, Sam's Treasure, the 3rd filly we're going to talk about in a row now, and another one racing first off the freshening after some time. Everyone's had at least 2 months off that we've talked about so far. She won her most recent effort, a first level allowance, and I like the way that she did it. I think pretty much all but one race in her career, she's been very consistent. She's been on the lead. She's been close to it. And I think the addition of blinkers is interesting. We haven't seen her blinkers on now, 3 starts now. Now the new connections decide to put them back on.
Yeah, it's interesting going out for these new connections who did purchase her at auction for $270,000, which feels like a lot of money to pay for a horse in the middle of her 4-year-old season. She probably does have some residual broodmare value, being a daughter of Munnings coming in here that has some pedigree behind her. She ran some nice races in the middle of 2024 during her 3-year-old season, 80 plus buyers that would give her a big chance in here. And I agree, her last race was good. She put in a strong finish. This is a step up in class, but she feels like a horse that if any pace develops, she will be finishing well at the end.
The number 4, Marmalade Sky, one of the 2 Jacobson runners. She was 3rd last time out. It was her first start in some time. And I feel like we always know that horses run better second off the layoff, but I feel like this barn is really good at that. Typically, we don't see long layoffs from the Jacobson barn.
No, and he's a trainer that actually does pretty well with relatively short turnaround. So I'm not too worried about the fact that she's coming back just 10 days after that return race last time. If they decide to run here, we'll see if Jacobson actually runs these two horses against each other. But Marmalade Sky, she's got consistency coming in here. I will say she got a good trip last time, just kind of sitting inside or stalking outside behind Jersey Pearl and two back. She was very lucky to win that race because the runner up basically blew the turn, like bore out to the 10 path and came back for second. So the runner up was actually the best horse in that race. Marmalade Sky was just lucky to find herself in the winner's circle. And this feels like it might be one of the tougher fields she's met recently.
Her stablemate's the number 5, Hillarito, who's a little interesting. She's a 5-year-old mare, just 5 races under her belt, but 4 trips to the winner's circle. And you look at her, she started Mountaineer, went to Belterra, back to Mountaineer, which you look at the conditions at Mountaineer. It's similar in some ways to Mahoning Valley, where there's a little bit more wiggle room in the conditions. There's some interesting spots. They opted for it. She was able to pick her 3rd lifetime win. And obviously, first start off a bit of a freshening for David Jacobson now, who also owns this one. She kind of picked up where she left off and then also took a step forward.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't like her at all based on her performances before coming into the Jacobson barn, but she really improved in that most recent start at Ellis Park since I guess she was privately acquired by Jacobson earlier this season. The 89 buyer, if she repeats it here, she's probably going to beat this field. And I know that Ellis Park was not as speed favoring this season as it felt like it had been 2 years ago or maybe in the past, but I'm still always a little skeptical of horses that just get loose up front there and don't really get a challenge. So I'll see if some others decide to go after her this time, but she is getting into a more competitive spot. So I have trouble totally trusting her, though acknowledging she is dangerous.
The number 6, Princess Madison, we'll take a look at her most recent effort where she was second best at Saratoga. Now, that was at the 6 furlong distance, and kind of looking at that effort from her, I feel like, A, she just had to chase throughout. And B, when you look at the margin here, I mean, yes, she's defeated by 3, but she was clear of 3rd. So I think that bodes well for her. And I think getting back to Churchill might not be a bad thing. She was able to graduate here. And when she did, I thought she got a perfect trip, but really looked good and stretching out on the field.
Yeah, the winner of this race, we're taking a look at Tricky Temper. She's a pretty nice New York bred who's run some buyers in the 90 plus range. So no disgrace for Princess Madison losing to her. I guess the one knock I've got on her 2 recent races, Ashley, is that Phil Bauer is a trainer that just points to the Saratoga meet every year with horse after horse. We see them run their best races of the season at Saratoga, not always replicate them elsewhere, especially when he comes back to Kentucky. So I wonder if maybe we already saw the best of her and she didn't quite get back to some of the races that we saw out of her last year. So I kind of wonder where she's at from a form standpoint, but her best effort certainly makes her a contender here.
And then rounding out the field here is the number 7, Tripolina, who she's been a little bit of a head scratcher for me. I feel like she did like the Tapeta up at Woodbine, even though she wasn't necessarily winning all those races, but she held her own. She was able to close from off the pace, and she's still been able to do that now at these sprint races here in the States. But her last 2, I mean, it's just a really tough sell when you know Hillarito was much the best last time out. And this is a filly that, finished 6th in a field of 10.
Yeah, her last race was not good. She really just has that one race in her past several, the second place finish at a big price in the Roxolana that makes her interesting in here, but she got a very strong pace to close into on that occasion. And we looked at the pace projector earlier. She's not supposed to get that kind of setup here, and it feels like her form has fallen apart, so she's a little tough to get to.
Interesting Sunday race of the day here. Don't forget it's race number 8 at Churchill. Free past performances on the DRF website. We will move to our top selections in here, and we're both going to go against the Jacobson runners. I actually don't use Hillarito at all. I don't know. The horse could obviously err again, or I feel like that's the sort of horse that takes a step back. I go to the 3, Sam's Treasure, who I mentioned earlier. I like the form, and I like that the blinkers go on again. I think it's an interesting move. We'll see if the new connections do, but you'll go to the number 2 here, High Fashion Kate, which we talked about. I mean, she pretty much shows up on any surface that she finds herself on, and last time out, she did have a big race.
Yeah, I respect your top pick, Sam's Treasure. I definitely have her in the mix. I just think High Fashion Kate is going to be the right kind of price in this race. I don't think you're going to get the 15-1 morning line. She seems a little more logical to me than that price, but she's just shown the versatility. And something else I noticed, Ashley, is when you isolate her Churchill Downs races, regardless of surface, she just continues to run her best races at Churchill. So I don't mind her getting back on this surface. And if she is 15-1, sign me up.
So field of 7, we cover at least 6 of the horses here. We don't have Tripolina anywhere, but 2, 3, 5, 4 for David, 3, 6, 1, 4 for me. Don't forget race 8 this Sunday at Churchill. Good luck.